Dear Dr. Jabr, thank you so much for joining our Rehearsing World Citizenship interview series. The purpose of this series is to inspire and assist youths and educators around the world in their efforts to advance the consciousness of humanity's interconnectedness and the realization that the suffering of the part is the suffering of the whole. Dr. Samah Jabr is a Palestinian psychiatrist, psychotherapist, and the chair of the mental health unit at the Palestinian Ministry of Health. She has become a key figure in addressing the mental health crisis in Palestine, especially in the context of occupation and other societal challenges. Her work extends beyond clinical psychiatry to include education, advocacy, and writing. Dr. Jabr, you have made significant contributions to the field of psychiatry in Palestine, focusing on the treatment of personal and collective traumas from the perspective of liberation psychology. As you explain it, liberation psychology is a revolutionary approach in the field of psychology that goes beyond traditional therapy to focus on addressing the social and political roots of oppression and injustice. It is a direct response to the suffering of colonized and oppressed people, aiming to free the mind and soul from the destructive effects of colonization and occupation. This approach is not limited to individual psychological dimensions, but is deeply intertwined with the struggle for freedom and justice in societies where people live. Dr. Jabr, in your upbringing, what do you believe has contributed to your extension of solidarity to every human being?
Thank you very much for having me for this interview. It's a pleasure to be with you and to talk to you. I'm a Palestinian, so I grew up in a society that is very familiar with suffering, but also a society that is very resourceful and resilient. And solidarity within the Palestinians and pro-social action and behavior within the Palestinian society, and solidarity from the international community towards Palestinians have been important resources that have nourished the Palestinian life and existence in spite of all the odds and all the difficult circumstances surrounding us. So that experience has shaped my ideas about solidarity and the healing capacity of solidarity. I am also a Jerusalemite. I come from Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a very complex place, very diverse. There are many labels and stereotypes. So to navigate my way to connect with different human beings across these labels and stereotypes has been something very important that shaped my view of other human beings. So I believe that in spite of all this complexity, labeling, stereotyping, I can connect to other humans, and that experience also helps me recognize the difficult impact of labeling and stereotyping and its potential to interrupt this human connection. I grew up in a family of educators. My parents, aunts, and uncles, there are many educators in my family. And I think they emphasized the importance of ethical responsibility in our education they have influenced us to be on the side of the poor, of the marginalized, and this is not a favor that we do to others. This is part of our ethical responsibility as educated people who have better conditions than others. So whenever there is a margin of comfort, we need to extend our efforts and our resources to help others and to empower them. And that was our way of living in Jerusalem.
Thank you, Dr. Jab. So, Jab, you probably more than anyone who is outside Palestine and the region, and we are here in the United States, but we really, I think that as you were saying, whoever has some privilege and is in a zone of comfort, once they want to engage in activism, once they want to engage in education, they face a lot of resistance. They face a lot of backlash. And I always ask myself, when I see people like you, when I meet people like you, what is the source of your courage that keeps you going? Courage and hope in the face of so much resistance, in the face of and in the face of the fact that for many people, they do have to leave their zone of comfort, and to take that step and to speak up and to give witness. In your case, when you look at yourself, what is the source of your courage and hope you have been talking about your background and your education and that sense of, it's a moral and ethical guideline that guides you, but anything else that you would like to add, in terms of the
It's the
courage to
belief
leave?
system.
Yeah.
It's my belief system. It's
Mhm.
the value system that I adopt personally, and that surrounds my family and my community. I believe that silence in front of injustices is a form of complicity, and I cannot be complicit in oppression or injustice. So I feel the obligation to speak against injustices, no matter what the power difference is. At least I have the obligation to reject that in my heart and to refuse it in my statements, in my action. If I cannot do it by my action, at least by my words, by my hearts, in my mind, I refuse oppression, injustice, and I also believe in the transforming influence of empathy. As a psychiatrist and a mental health professional, I encounter people who are devastated, people uh, who are extremely traumatized, where I feel that all the uh, interventions that I learned in psychiatry will not work for them. But if I stay with them as a witness, if I provide accompaniment, if I provide empathy, I see that they improve. It's not the evidence-based intervention that I do with these people. Human empathy has the capacity to transform people, to contribute to healing. So my belief system and my characteristics as a person, my skills as a professional have given me tools and also the responsibility and the vision to be on the side of the oppressed and to speak for the ones who cannot, whose experiences are unspeakable. My work as a medical doctor and a mental health professional has brought me very close to the most intimate experiences of people. And this is a big burden and a big responsibility. And I think that these people want their stories to be shared and told. They need acknowledgement, validation, empathy, and solidarity. And I intermediate the stories of these people and pass them on to a wider audience. I think it helps people on both sides. For those whose stories are untold, I think it gives them recognition to tell their stories. And for those who live very far from the traumatic reality of marginalized and oppressed people, they also need to know what's going on in the world, because that will expand their capacity to empathize, that will make them connect with other human beings, that will help them have a more realistic vision of this world.
That's so true. Thank you, Dr. Jabr. You know, and we see the youth not only now, but before, but now it's becoming more and more visible, you know, how sensitive the youth are, how compassionate they are all over the world, actually. And but at the same time, you know, so many of the ideals that we had, that so many of the hopes and dreams that we had, that humanity was advancing, and we come to the realization that it's not, you know. And I think it's so easy really to lose hope. And when I look at the youth who are so idealistic and you know, and are willing to make sacrifices actually in 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 this to extend solidarity, what would you tell the youth, you know, around the world about how can they remain hopeful in a world that is so that it feels that we are going backwards, really. It feels many times that we are not advancing as humanity. But how can the youth, you know, from
I,
your
I think the most,
perspective, what would you share with the youth?
you know, I work a lot with people who contemplate suicide, who have suicidal ideation, and I converse with them. And I think people suffer from depression, nihilistic ideas about the world, or suicidal ideation or behavior when they lose purpose. And I think that it is very important for the youth to anchor themselves in purpose, a purpose larger than themselves. You know, we live in a world that overemphasizes individualism, consumption, and makes people feel inferior and disconnected. And I think the healthy response to that is to connect ourselves to the collective. I don't mean that we lose our individual identities, but maybe find our individual identity within the context of connecting with the collective, connecting ourselves with a large purpose, searching for global perspectives, reviewing the life stories, the biographies of inspiring people, people whose life has been inspiring for so many. I think this is important for everyone, but especially the youth who have more questions about a world that is so materialistic and that overemphasizes individualism and egocentricity. It is interconnectedness, solidarity, global perspectives learning about other parts in the world can be liberating for these youth and can give them a meaning and a purpose for their lives.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Jabr. I couldn't agree more. And Dr. Jabr, last question. If you could give a few words of advice, or what do you have to share with educators who want to help contribute to the education of youth who have a consciousness of human interconnectedness and who are capable of extending solidarity to every human being, regardless of their background. So what would you share with educators? What could they do? How can they add to their work? Or what can they be, perhaps be aware of, or in the classroom, in an educational setting, to help the youth develop this consciousness and this attitude towards the world?
First, I want to say that I come from a culture and a family tradition that gives so much respect for educators and the role of educators. My parents are educators, and my father was a professor of educational psychology, and he's an author of many books that prepare educators for their role, for their future role. And maybe I decided to study psychiatry, and I developed my interest in mental health because of some of the books on his bookshelves. And one of those books was Pedagogy of the Oppressed for Paulo Freire.
Yes.
I think there are many jewels in that book. So
I wanted to
just want to say that the role of educators in protecting the individual, shaping a better community, promoting solidarity, empathy, compassion is very, very important. And my advice to educators is to invite diversity into classroom and global perspectives, stories from different parts of the world, promoting dialogue. It is important for the educational process to be two-sided. Not only the teacher educates the child, but the student has something to offer also in the educational process. Critical thinking is very important. I think much of the horrors that are taking place and are being normalized, much of the propaganda that paves the way for injustices and war and discrimination is taking place because people don't have sufficient critical thinking. They don't ask certain questions. There are certain ideologies that are so important and holy that we cannot question. And when we fail to question them, they can bring a lot of harm on certain individuals or communities or populations. So with all respect to the role of educators, I think they have this important role of shaping young minds and shaping the future of these people. And hopefully they can contribute to a future where there is more compassion and hope and solidarity and empathy between human beings.
Dr. Jabr, I was looking for my Pedagogy of the Oppressed book, which is open right now in front of me. I was looking to show it to you, my version actually. Here it is.
Great.
I've been teaching for decades now, and I can never leave this book out of any topic that we address, from international law to to human interdependency, to teaching methodologies. This is required reading. So I am originally from Brazil too.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Thank you, Dr. Jab. Thank you so much. What an honor to be able to spend this few minutes with you. You are in our prayers, and we are doing what we can from here, from a distance.
Thank you very much. Pleasure being with you.
Thank you, Dr. Jab. I hope.